Hey guys, Pat Ryark here, also known as the Patriarchy. So I'm actually a pretty big comic book fan, and I used to spend, $50, $100 a month on buying books. And I stopped buying a lot of regular books that I had for years, particularly Marvel books, because if you don't know, Marvel has been pandering to SJWs with their comic books for a while now, and it's been a baffling business choice because predominantly Marvel's read by like men. Men still frequent comic book stores, older men too. It's not really something little kids read. It's not still something that's been mainstream, like buying comic book. Like, here's the thing: everybody watches comic book movies now. Everyone buys the shirts now. And they might go buy the first issue of a new book that comes out that's really popular. They're not going to consistently keep buying the book through the years. They're not. We still haven't seen sales like X-Men 1 in the '90s. Comics haven't reached out. It's not that they're selling bad, but yeah. So they did Ironheart, which was female Iron Man. They did female Thor. They kept throwing in SJW politics like crazy. One guy's channel I'm a big fan of. His name is Captain Cummings. I'll put a link in the description. He just does videos about this SJW stuff in comic books, and it's a great channel. He goes through the whole story, panel by panel, explains to you, because here's the thing: Marvel was always about diversity. X-Men was always diverse. It always had a theme. Marvel was, always about your problem, how you felt, your insecurities and stuff like that. Be it Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, or the Fantastic Four. There was always the underdog fighting against, people trying to oppress them in a way. People were discriminating against them in all sorts of different comic books in Marvel. And they had hard lives, and they were relatable characters, and the stories were good. It was okay to have PC-esque messages in Marvel Comics because the stories were good. We like the characters. We love the X-Men. So we don't care if there's all these, if there's all this subtext for, the gay community and stuff like that. I don't mind that because X-Men's really good. It's good storytelling. But all this stuff now has just been awful. The dialogue's awful. There's one part where a female Thor punches a guy, and like her thought bubble says something like, and that's for using feminism like it's a 4-letter word or something. It's like, oh my god. Oh, that's awful writing. So, of course, the sales have declined at Marvel. And they've been declining steadily. And what do they do? What do they blame it on? They don't blame it on the shitty writing and how they've destroyed franchises like X-Men. They've just shit on the X-Men in the comics. How Spider-Man's had this up and down of bullshit for years now. I mean, oh my god. The list goes on. Civil War 2 was cancer. There's just so many bad events now in Marvel. It's for the occasionally well-written comic and good comic, there's just so much shit out there. I mean, you could just make endless videos on it. But instead, they come out now and they're like, oh, our sales are down. It's because people don't like diversity. No, they don't like PC culture virtue signaling bullshit that you call diversity. Nobody has a problem with diversity. I love that this is the self-defense thing where it's like, oh, I guess people just didn't want to buy books with women in it and stuff. And that's legitimately what this fucker says. Like, that is so shitty to say to the people who buy Marvel comics who've constantly been supporters of diversity, Marvel fans. What the fuck are you talking about? If there's anyone out there that cares about diversity, it was the geeky and nerdy guys that supported comic books. I remember being a kid and even a teenager, and I had a really hard time getting like a Captain America shield or Mjolnir or a Green Lantern ring without going to the comic book store or getting them online. And now you can get them at Walmart and shit. It's crazy. I mean, things have changed, but it was always the underdog. It was always people that felt like they didn't have a place that they belonged. People read Marvel, understood that. So don't give me that shit. That's ridiculous. And that's why I'm still a bigger DC fan now, because DC treats its characters mythical, like God-esque, and I think that's almost the way they should treat their superheroes. And it's why Batman books are still good. It's why Superman book can still be really freaking good today. All these books are still good. Green Lantern, Blackest Night a few years ago is because they still get the mythic nature of those characters. They still get them down. Not in the movies. The DC films have been sucking. But in the comic books, there's still really good shit in DC. So let's look at this article real quick and jump in, because I've just been ranting, as always. Feminists explode as Marvel blames falling comic book sales on diversity. Marvel's VP of Sales, David Gabriel, has reportedly blamed the company's falling comic book sales on an increase of diversity among its franchises. According to The Independent, despite releasing a number of multi-million-dollar blockbusters that recently have overtaken Hollywood, Marvel's comic book sales have been dropping. David Gabriel addressed this at Marvel's Retailer Summit a few days ago, telling ICV2 that what we heard was that people didn't want any more diversity. They didn't want female characters out there. That's what we heard, whether we believe that or not. See, no one told you that they didn't like diversity of female characters. They didn't like bad female characters. We didn't like where you said, hey, let's just have a female Iron Man. Fuck it. And you didn't make her interesting. Female Thor is boring. Get good right. You know, one of my favorite books from back in the day is the book that Jessica Jones was based off of, Alias. That's a total feminist book. Hardcore from like years ago. And it's a great book because it has incredible writing and the subtext is really good. Once again, I have no problem with diversity in a comic book. Just be good. You guys have really generic writing now, and you're pandering to SJWs like they're your reader base, and they're not your reader base. I don't know that that's really true, he continued, but that's what we saw in sales. We saw the sales of any character that was diverse, any character that was new, or female characters, anything that was not a core Marvel character, people were turning their nose up against. Yeah, because you've been treating the X-Men like shit and bringing in the Inhumans because you don't own the movie rights to the X-Men franchise, so you clearly don't want to support it at all, which has been pissing me off. And yeah, why would I buy comic books of female Thor or Ironheart or all these new female characters? Why? I want to read Spider-Man, I want to read Doctor Strange, I want to read the Hulk, I want to read Daredevil. I don't want to read this new shit. Like, why don't you come up with a new character with new powers that are interesting? That's an idea. According to Insider.com, Marvel recently made a number of pro-diversity changes, including creating a young black female Iron Man. Following ICV2's publication of the article on the topic, Gabriel's words caused quite a stir online. Gabriel's point is bullshit, wrote Gizmodo's Beth Elderkin. It shelves blame onto the readers and blatantly ignores a lot of the other reasons Marvel Comics are doing terribly. Totally agree. SJW Twitter users also weighed in with predictable results. Okay, I'm new to the comic scene and not an expert, but maybe, just maybe, if Marvel put as much effort into promoting the comics as they do with the movies, then maybe the sales would be more successful. No, it's not promotion. These comics are shit. The movies are decent movies. I don't love all the Marvel films, but they're decent enough films, and they're crowd pleasers. That's why they do well. So no, you're not an expert. I doubt you even read Marvel Comics if that's what you're saying. Can you do that, blaming diversity in women for a sales slump? No, just no. The slump is systemic symptom. Adapt. Once again, this isn't an issue. It's not because Marvel isn't adapting. They're adapting with the diversity bullshit. It's just bad writing. That's really what it is. And laziness. And a lack of creative integrity and stuff at the comic book level, because it seems like Marvel doesn't really care about the comic book sales anymore, because this was my fear when the film franchises were going to get so big with Marvel. And even with DC. I was so scared that it was going to affect the comic books, and it fucking did with Marvel. It really affected Marvel Comics. I loved reading Marvel, and the more we've gotten into the MCU, the less and less I have interest in it. Well, maybe if they stop turning everyone into Nazis and actually hiring minorities and women. I'm half on that point, but I agree that the way that they try to have these white guys write this crap for, like, feminine, it's like, dude, he doesn't know what he's writing here. He doesn't relate to this stuff. How about you write better stories and not shit, and maybe not blame women and diversity and the more racist fools that hate change? That's a fair point. Marvel Comics, people don't like diversity. Nonsense gets more offensive every time. It is offensive. It really is offensive to say that people don't like diversity. I don't think that's an SJW reaction. Like, it's legit. It's like, no, that's bullshit. You're saying that people don't want to read the books just because they have diversity? What a simplification. Following the backlash, David Gabriel allegedly reached out to ICV2 and asked to clarify his statement. We have also been hearing from stores that welcome and champion our new characters and titles and want more? What the fuck are these stores? Declared in a complete 180 spin. They've invigorated their own customer base and helped them grow their stories because of it. So we're getting both sides of the story, and the only upcoming change we're making to ensure we don't lose focus of our core heroes. Well, I'd say you have lost focus of your core heroes, and you have for a long period of time. The decline started to happen to me. I noticed years ago when Civil War One came out, and Mark Millar was writing it. It was very much just a book to sell, which wasn't new or anything. Comics had always done this, but it more and more the characters started to feel less human and more like products to be sold because they were trying to stay relevant with whatever. And there's just been a lot of gimmicks in Marvel comics the last few years, and I think they would be better off to go back to basics. When people saw the DC 52 reboot, that was successful at first, because people like Scott Snyder were writing Batman and Swamp Thing, and the Rebirth stuff's been doing really well. And I still read a lot of DC books. I still read some Marvel books. Don't get me wrong. But overall, I think there's clearly a problem at the creative stage with Marvel that needs to be addressed. And it's just a blanket statement to say it's diversity. You have to be very specific. It's the kind of diversity you're doing and the way you're doing it that's the problem, Marvel. Not diversity in general. Don't get them mixed up. Get better writers. Write your characters. Keep them the characters they are. Develop new characters that can be interesting and cool and fun. And leave your bullshit out of the way. This political correctness movement, I thought it was dying. I really did after Trump. I think we all talked about that, but now we're seeing with the ad things and Wall Street Journal and a lot of these publications, there's still this fight for political correctness. There's still this fight against people who want a certain type of speech or people like me. I just want people to be able to say whatever the fuck they want, and I think we should have challenging stories and art and language policing is just kind of stupid. I think in general people should be allowed to say what they want a lot more often without these rules that we make up in society, and then they try to enforce those rules because some people are uncomfortable with what people have to say. Don't like it. Marvel writes their books in that sense. They're not willing to take risks by trying to be so safe that the only risk they're taking is the risk of losing their readers permanently, because it's really hard to go back when you feel like you just keep getting stabbed over and over again, and they don't care about your loyal readership over the years because now you're just a number at the audiences who go see the movies that come out every year. And that's, as a comic book fan, that can really hurt. And I'm not saying the hipster thing where I'm upset comic books are mainstream. I love that they're mainstream. I love that geek culture's mainstream. But I don't want to lose, that love that I have for some of these books because of it. And that's what really matters at the end of the day is keeping the stories good for the next generation so they can be inspired by these mythical characters and tell their stories. I mean, that's the whole point, is to keep us going and inspiring people. So I'm asking Marvel to inspire again and not give people what they think they want. I ask them to think of things that nobody has thought of yet, or to present a story in a way that hasn't been thought of yet. And that'll bring readers back. You got to blow us away. You can't just expect us to be like, oh, you like women and black people. Good for you. I'm going to read this and be a good person. That's not why we read comic books. So stop it. Anyway, this is the patriarchy. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please give me your opinion. Do you read comics? What's your favorite book? Have you noticed this SJW thing? There's a lot of channels that cover this. Like I said, I'll put Captain Cummings' channel in the description. Go look at his videos on this. Very good stuff. I love his videos. And if you watch one you like it, leave a comment and say, Renaissance Men sent me here. Let him know that I love his work. And I thank you guys for watching the videos. Follow me on Twitter. Check me out on minds.com. And just a reminder to the people out there who make these comic books and make the movies and run all this stuff and are at the head of these things that we love. With great power comes great responsibility. Okay? So instead of shoving the social justice stuff in our face, just try to make it a little bit more low-key.